Just if you could, Sam, just give me a head count on how many people. Okay. All right.
I'll get to you. You're going right now.
All right, did you guys already call the meeting?
No.
Perfect, okay, sorry, I'm running a few minutes late. I'd like to call to order the special Sylvania Township Board of Trustees meeting, November 28th at 2:30 p.m.
Call the roll. Mr. Crandall.
Here.
Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mr. Genoway.
Here.
Simcoe. Here.
I guess we do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. With that, I'll turn it over to Scott, and you can lead the way here.
Well, before Scott says
okay.
It's just that the information we put out this year is, once again, be as frugal as you can. Finding places you can cut. If you need more appropriation per account, justify it, tell us why. Scott was tasked with doing mostly the revenue estimates from the auditor's office and the different line items, and he'll talk about that. And then he'll work with Chief on other departments, and he'll work with Chief Comey on the expenses, and we'll highlight any areas that are going up and areas that are going down where we're trying to save money. Scott.
All right. I'll give you a packet for each department. We'll start with the police department, and we might as well just take the documents in order. The first is the line-by-line budget that we created for the police department. For comparative purposes, we put in the actuals, expenditures, and revenue from 2016. Our original budget was 2017, and year-to-date through September, that's when we started creating these worksheets, and then our proposed budget for 2018. I guess the main highlights on this is on the revenue projections. We used the estimates provided by the county auditor, and then going forward, we use anywhere from 1% to 2%, depending on like our history. We didn't build these into our future projections, but I just wanted to remind you that next year will be a reval year, and though we didn't build that into the projections because we really don't have any way to estimate that, but the police department has a 2.5 mils that we passed back in 2004, and I'm thinking maybe we can pick up a little more value on that one if those values haven't climbed back all the way up. But for the year 2018, we just used their estimates. And then on the expenditure side, we went ahead and calculated the benefits based on the most recent contract. And then the other line items are pretty much just right in line with last year. The budget maintains just the current level of service. We were projecting a balance of $5 million in at the end of 2018. I also, after that, provided a worksheet for the capital funds, and Chief Comey can go a little more into the capital requests, and we had prepared a 5-year projection based on Mr. Crandall's request from last year, and also we have a detailed list of the capital items for this year. So unless there's any questions, Chief can go ahead and talk about the capital requirements.
Sure. Under expenditures with the capital projects, you'll note equipment $162,000, and a large sum of that, actually the biggest part of that, is to start rotating our portable radios. Back several years ago, at least 7, 8 years ago, the county, with their funds, supplied every law enforcement agency in the county with both mobile radios for the cars and portable radios. Well, those are wearing out. In fact, you can't get parts for them or anything else. And so we're going to rotate them in. We currently have about 50 of those portables. A little under 50, it might be 48, but we need spares. We need one in dispatch. We need extras when somebody goes down. So we're going to start purchasing those, 10 of them a piece. And they're obviously very expensive radios. So that's the $55,000. That accounts for almost $56,000 of that 162. We also have to replace the MDTs, the mobile data terminals in the cars. We're replacing 7 of them, actually replacing 3, updating 4 other ones. That's absolutely mandatory also. That is just short of $40,000. We're buying our last set of tasers to outfit the balance of the officers in the department. Lastly, we're supplying the detectives, administration, and such with tasers. So $20,651 represents those 10 tasers. We're going for a speed monitor trailer for almost $20,000. That'll be one of those message signs, again, that can be used in numerous ways. Speed enforcement in the neighborhoods that we get lots of complaints on, but also different messages that we want to get across. We are going with an optic system on the patrol rifles in the vehicles. Right now, they just have iron sights, which are pretty difficult, if not worthless, after dark in low light situations. This will enable the officers to be much safer and much better shooters if, God forbid, they ever have to use them. That accounts for $11,300. We speculated, we put $10,000 in there for an SRT camera system. That could be anywhere from like a little robot to a ball that you throw in with a camera into like a house with a barricaded subject so they can get a better idea where the person is, what they have, that sort of thing. But that could range, when we talked about it, the SRT commander is going to look into that. That could range anywhere from like $2,500 to $10,000. $10,000 is more than likely the absolute tops it would be. And then we need to buy 6 more rifles. That amounts to $7,600 plus $2,000 for shipping for the rifles because they have to be shipped a certain way. And those rifles are to make sure that all our rifles are uniform. Currently, our school community affairs, okay, they're in the middle schools quite a bit and such. They do not have rifles in their vehicles if, God forbid, they should come across something or there'd be a situation. So we want to get them rifles. And then Sergeant Whalen and Car 28 also have rifles that are older, that are different. And the idea is you want all weapons that are uniform and the same, so there's that interchangeability between the officers if they ever have to use it. That amounts to the $162,000, and then real quickly, the $104,000 is 3 SUV sport utility vehicles. The Ford Explorers, like we've been getting now. That's the car itself, plus all the equipment that goes in the car, from the shield to the light bar to the steel box for the ammo in the back, that whole thing. And that amounts to $104,000. That's all I have as far as capital. Any questions?
Your speed monitor, is that different than the one that we have now?
It's a little bit different. I believe it'll allow you to have more characters in the message. Actually, our community affairs sergeant's been lobbying for it for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll allow us, for sobriety checkpoints, for example, or any number of things where we can actually put a message on it. If there would be any kind of an emergency, we'd have a natural disaster and needed to close something off, or there's a lot of different uses for it.
I get you.
Are you going to keep the old one, or?
Yes, most definitely.
So
the
new one could probably be used by the road department, I suppose. if they ever had a for it?
Yeah, if they had a need for it, or, yeah, if they had a need for it or whatever, yeah.
Like Central Avenue.
We'll loan it to them.
Like Central Avenue. Ronnie.
Well, I don't.
They have the picture technology? I mean, can you write a ticket based on these?
No.
No.
No. And that would actually start off with, I don't know all the legalities, but, the city passed an ordinance for that, the city of Toledo. And to my knowledge, a township probably couldn't even do that. And you know how that's been challenged in Toledo and Dayton, and seems to be holding up now, but it would start with you passing a resolution that we could even do it.
Okay. I was just curious.
Mhm.
I know they're out there still, and they've changed the way they do it with the officer present and that sort of thing. I just wondered what technology was available with it. Okay.
I appreciate you coming up with a capital report. It gives us a good projection, and I think this is a first. But,
Chief,
good
you
to
plan on
have.
moving your whole fleet to SUVs?
Yes, yes. And the reason the regular sedans, okay, they're just too small. We've got a lot of bigger guys, and especially, it's not only legroom that is increased in the SUVs, but it's the width of the seat too. And when you're wearing a gun belt, and used to be, just a gun, a handcuff case and stuff, it wasn't so tough, but now with them wearing tasers and everything else, it's much, much better to go with the, and the SUVs are not tremendously more than the sedans.
When you say mandatory replacement, you mean because of parts and,
As far as the radios,
yeah, they're not,
yeah, we can't get parts for those
yeah, that's what
portables
I'm
anymore.
figuring. Same way with the MDTs,
Yes,
same thing?
yes.
How old are those at the county?
The MDTs,
No,
the portable radios, I want to say they're at least 7 years old. They're Motorola's. They were good radios. They've served their purpose for a long time, but, and the reason we can bring them in 10 at a time, because we'll need to buy 50 of them, or almost 50 of them by the time we're done, but we can piecemeal it in so our budget doesn't take a hit in 1 year, is because, we can salvage parts off of the old portables that are turned in. We'll hang on to them and such.
Just an observation, don't take it in a bad way, but I know when we ran out of parts for the Crown Vics, then we went to the Tauruses because now we're going with the SUVs. So we've got 3 different cars in our fleet. Are we just gonna sell off those Crown Vics, or how, with the
We'll
Tauruses?
rotate them in with the mileage. I mean, they still have plenty of parts in the back and such, but eventually, and, in fact, within 2 years, I believe, but it depends totally on mileage, the Crown Vics will be rotated out. And yeah, we'll auction those off, and then, we'll have the sedan, Tauruses, and SUVs, but eventually we'll have all SUVs within a few years here. And quite honestly, one thing that's been disappointing is I know when Gary, the mechanic, and I went several years ago over to Cleveland, they told us, for the accessories, for the shields and different things like that to fit in it, they told us they wouldn't be changing those SUVs probably in 10 years. Well, they've changed them within 2 years. So you still have to get new accessories and parts, which was very disappointing because, they were selling it. That was a sales point. We're not going to change these for like 10 years. So, but yeah, I like to have them all uniform out there. I mean, I think it looks better too, and that might be part of what you're talking about too. You got 3 different cars, but yeah, it's just in the transition here.
Okay.
On the last sheet, the 8.5 by 11, 14 sheet is kind of a recap where you can put everything in perspective on one sheet of paper. As you can see, we're going into 2018 with a cash balance of $5,572,000. Our assumptions for the years projected out are above it, where we have the wages based on a union contract, the health insurance, the dental insurance, are just estimates of what we are seeing for the future. Those can be revised each year. And the property tax, as Scott said earlier, we're only planning in this budget a 1.5% increase, which will be pretty accurate for 2018. But with the revaluation in 18 and then coming on board in 19, the future, we feel we were real conservative by not including that in the reval in there, because we don't know what it will be, but there could easily be a substantial growth in property taxes based on some of the old levies that the police department has. So, once again, we're being very conservative on the revenue side. On the expense side, as you can see, we have the salaries and benefits in there, and those benefits are part of the health and dental insurance, which is the assumptions of Bob. And the materials and supplies, once again, are detailed in the smaller sheets if there's any questions on those.
We expect the salaries to go up by 300,000 next year? Or 275, something like that?
Yeah, we do that based on the union contract. We just project those out.
Okay. What is the raise for next year?
We've got 3% built into 2018 and 2% into 2019.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you for making it pretty painless.
Hey, Mike.
Guys?
Scott, why don't you start once again on the revenue?
All right, we're going to take these in the same order. You got the packet there. Again, on the revenue, we use the auditor's estimates. And then on the projection, we use 1.5% going forward. But again, this is a case where the fire department has a 1 1/4 mil levy from 2008 and a 1.5 mil levy from 2014. And we're expecting that those have some catching up to do to get the levels back up, the appraisal values back up to where they were when those are passed. So again, we're optimistic about an increase next year with the reval. The EMS contract is the other large item, revenue item, and they're locked into that. I think they had a 3-year agreement, so that's all set too.
When is that up?
I think it's up next year. It's 18, I believe, and then we got to go back to them again.
Do we expect any changes there? I know there was talk this past year.
I have been sitting in some meetings, and Mr. Gherkin is looking at doing some different things, maybe with putting together just an EMS levy at the end of this of 18. So we have another meeting tomorrow night. So if I hear anything, it's all been in the talk so far. So
The talk I heard is that it's a county levy, and you up to the county, but EMS is one of the few things that works in the county. And most people I've talked to and heard from is that unless they can guarantee funding, they'll keep it the same as it is. Part of the sales tax going to each individual entity, because there's widespread support for EMS in the county.
And that really the thought process was, we have a great system, we just like to make it better even. So that's what the talk has been.
Where is the revenue from the transport unit in here?
If you look at the next sheet after the four-page fire budget, that's our budget worksheet for the ambulance EMS fund. And we're projecting 200,000. And then you can see they provided us with a breakdown of the expenditures. And I wanted to point out then, down on the last expense item, under vehicles and accessories, that 98.5, that's the vehicle that we talked about at the last meeting. That's the down payment and first year's lease payment.
What happens to those monies?
They get to, well, we deposit them directly into this fund as they come in. And
Then what?
then either if they buy something directly, we'll charge it to that fund. The payroll items, Vicki will charge to those funds when she records the payroll into our accounting system. And it's based on the actual hours that the guys spend on the roads.
Okay. That's going to be a continued separate account?
Yes, sir.
It
has
to be.
Okay.
The title of that, ambulance and EMS fund, our EMS payments aren't really in there from the county. I'm wondering just the title.
I don't check that, I don't know if that was a legal,
Is that,
I don't know, we'll find out, but we can,
but I think maybe emergency ambulance or transport unit.
we'll look at it, if it's not set.
I started to look at the EMS money when I saw that, and thought, no, I see what it is. And it's looking positive. That part's good.
And once again, just to reiterate, I think this was mentioned, that we have no plans in changing, the privates go first,
Right.
first call, and we're the backup. And we have no plans in changing that, which was a commitment we made.
When are we expecting the second half of the county's payment? It's showing here, it's not been paid yet?
I think it's quarterly, isn't it?
Yeah.
County.
Well, year-to-date,
Oh, on
the
this one.
EMS thing only shows being paid $390,000.
Oh, yeah, that was as of the end of September. I know we've gotten a third quarter, and
We get.
I'm not sure about the fourth quarter yet.
Yeah, I think we get one more.
But we'll get it in before the end of the year. It always comes in at the end. On the expenditure side, again, going line item by line item, we pretty much just kind of budgeted for the current level of service, with the exception of a couple items. We built in, the new contract calls for a new firefighter in 2018, so we built that into the budget. Under personal protective equipment, we built in $100,000 that the chief can talk about it. Under certain circumstances, we may spend that, we may not. And then also, we built in $103,000 for the local match for federal grants, which again, we may or may not spend. And the chief can talk more about that too. But beyond those three items, it's pretty much a budget that maintains our current level.
Want me to speak about
Yeah,
that?
maybe you can talk
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
those two items and then the...
First off, the other one I kind of wanted to mention is under communication equipment. That fell right in line with Chief Bomey's. We have the same portables.
What line are you on?
I'm, let's see, second page.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the bottom. We're projecting
Got it.
50,000.
Thank you.
And that 50,000 is basically a placeholder because their portables are part of that grant fund matching. We've been in, this was the second year we were in a regional grant to purchase portables with 11 of the other departments in the area. We made it all the way to the very last count and got knocked out again. So our plan is to go back again, and if we get the grant, then that $50,000 will sit there for other items, radio-wise. Chief Kowalski helped us earlier by putting a little bit of money aside. We were able to buy eight portables this year, because we do have some that are not fixable, so I had to purchase some of those. Now, as far as the PPE, which is our turnout gear, we are getting towards the end of its 12-year lifespan for NFPA. We've been buying like 8 to 10 sets a year. However, we had to use some of that money last year for other things, so we did not purchase as many last year, so that's why we're in a little bit more of a need this year to spend a little bit more on personal protective gear. And as far as the local match for federal grants, that is for our radios, portables and mobiles for the vehicles, and also our self-contained breathing apparatus, again, is another one that's getting towards the end of its life for the NFPA standard. We do have some money put aside for the cylinders, but we're hoping for the grant for the air packs themselves. So that's what those three are. Questions on any of those?
The next page in the packet is in the budget worksheet for the capital projects, fire capital projects fund. And then along with that are two sheets that have 5-year projections. So you can go through that also.
Okay. Capital equipment, well, actually, I'll go right back to the other one. As far as the fire fund capital projects, what we're looking at is, again, we're in the same boat with the MDTs. The county purchased our MDTs back several years ago, and then they updated once, and then they said once the second update was done, then the MDTs were on the departments. So we were able to get into a type of a purchase agreement that we would put by 7, and then that should take care of all of our apparatus that we have. So over the next 3 years, we spread out the payments to get all new MDTs in the vehicles. The LifePak 15, again, we're running on borrowed time on some of our monitor. That's our LifePak, or our cardiac monitor. We have some of them that are obsolete right now. They will service them, but they won't guarantee the service on them. The next line is the oxygen cylinder. They're the SCBA cylinders. They're not really oxygen cylinders. We're looking at 2 thermal imaging cameras. Our cameras that we have now are almost 15 years old, and the lifespan of those are right about where they're at. So, and the technology has improved immensely. The Tahoe was what was already approved several meetings ago. The 2 SUVs to replace our Ford Crown Vics. What I have done is we have 6 vehicles right now on GovDeals, trying to sell those vehicles. So what my goal was to bring our total amount of vehicles down. The 2 Crown Vics are the ones that we got from the police department like 3 years ago. That right now, talking to Al, need quite a bit of work, and for what they're worth, I think the last bid was like $400 on one of them, and we can't even get the brakes done for $400. So what my goal was to take the 6 vehicles and sell, and then that 1 Tahoe and the 2 Crown Vics or the 2 Explorers would then replace those 6 vehicles. So that's my thought on, that's where that came from.
Who drives those?
That would be, right now, Chief Nye has an Explorer, and the 2 Crown Vics are our safety officer and our fire prevention guy during the day, who also respond to EMS and fire incidents during the day. So they're really kind of, and then the 900,000 was what we had posted to 2018 that we're going to probably, is part of that I asked for on Tuesday, that we're going to have to move over into this year because we'll be signing the contract for this year. That won't be delivered till, it's a 12 to 14 month build. So if we order it in December, we might not even see it until January, February of 19. So that's where that is at. And that's it for 18. Now, as far as future projects, LED lights and apparatus being outside of number 2s this year. We've already done 3s and 4s with significant changes we're seeing in the lighting bill. Repair, reseal blacktop. We probably won't be able to do 2s and 3s, but we are looking at 4s, and then King Road, and I worked out with Rob and Chief Bomey and Mr. Zeitler that we all use that, so we're going to each pay a percentage of getting that resealed. That hasn't been resealed, and I can't tell you when the last time that and we've got some ruts out there that if we don't take care of it now, we're going to really, I mean, I got an estimate to have the whole thing torn out and that, and you don't want to know what that estimate was. It scared me just looking at it. Remove and replace pervious concrete at number 3s. That was a great idea when they put that in. They thought that would be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I have called everywhere, even San Diego, California. No one wants to even touch trying to fix it. I've met with Rob several times. We brought several concrete places in. Nobody wants to do anything with it. I think it was designed for warm weather. I think it was designed not to get cold, freeze, and because once it froze underneath it, just destroyed that concrete. So I've worked with Rob and the road department, and they're going to help me out by tearing it out, putting the base in, and then we'll have to have somebody pave it. So that was the 12.5 was a significant savings from having somebody come in and do all of the work. And then we have huge 18-foot doors on the King Road training tower, or the training barn, and I'm just afraid one person's going to pull that one too many times and we'll end up with a back injury. So we got a quote to replace all 5, or well, to put 5 garage door openers in for $2,700. And that's it.
On the recap sheet in FY14, once again, the wages are based on the union contract. The health insurance dental is the same as before. And the property taxes, as Scott said, is a conservative 1.5% increase, but we think we will be picking up additional revenue with the revale on some of those old levies that we have. As you can see, the good news, in my opinion, is the newest levy took effect in 15, and if you go 6 years, you're at 2020, and 2021 would be 7 years, and we're all the way out to 2022 and 2023, and I think with the additional revenue coming in from the revaluation, we're very comfortable that we're going to make the 7 years no problem, and we could possibly be going into 8 years on the levy that was passed in 14.
You made some mention about the thing we passed last week. Is that on this year's budget then, or because we voted on it this month, did that move to 2017's budget, or is that reflected in these numbers?
No, we're going to put into having an appropriation change from 18 to 17 so that we can sign. It has to be, I guess I don't.
We'll be able to issue the purchase order, but we won't pay for it until next year.
Or even 19 if it comes in January or February of 19, so.
There'll be no cash outflow this year, it's just the ability to sign the purchase order.
When will it hit when will it go on the budget?
It'll be in 18's budget. Without the cash.
Okay.
And we hope we'll get it in 18, but there's...
Yeah, it's a 12 to 14 month build, so.
If we don't pay it in 18, we'll hold that cash.
Okay. Okay.
And that was so we could get those incentives that helped us save some money. Also, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, Chief Freilich would have been here, but he's meeting with the State Fire Marshal on our fires that we had on Holland, Sylvania, so he wasn't able to be here with us today.
I see Chief Nye here, though.
Yeah.
All right.
The fire hose.
Fire hoses.
Is that a set aside?
That's a set aside, John, because remember 2 years ago I got $95,000 grant, and we've replaced all hose. We only have,
So you don't expect
I don't expect to have to utilize it.
till 2023?
And that's just in case some breaks or some, we lose some at a fire, or just so we have some in storage.
Is
Because
there a
right now,
particular reason? I mean, I guess you're telling us you're setting aside $5,000 a year,
Mhm.
and then, I mean, you're expensing it all in 2023.
Yeah, that would be the next time the NFPA standard comes up on some older hose that we still do have.
But I don't think the 5,000's, I don't think it's really in the numbers till 2023.
Right.
Am I
Yeah,
looking at that right?
Yeah, I'm not looking that we're gonna need
Yeah,
to
the
do
budget
that.
shows that we'll just spend that in 5 years, but it doesn't show like, we didn't put a line item in there.
Yeah,
Basically, we
I
just pay
think
the
I
balance.
get it. But we're not showing any expenses then in 20, 21, 20. I think it gives us a false impression of our cash carryover. I mean, I would think you're going to have some expenses. I mean, if you look at this, the only expense we have in 2021 through 2023 is $35,000 for hose, and you're really not putting that aside if I'm reading this right. I mean, maybe I'm not looking at it right, but it just looks to me like our cash carryover probably won't be what our projections show.
I think he's just looking at these columns.
All to 20,
Yeah, there's just no
22,
expenses in
yeah.
there. You follow me?
Yeah, we haven't expensed anything out for,
Yeah, but we're putting money away and
I
not
guess
showing
I'm not
any
getting-
expense. I just think it gives us a false,
okay. Well,
when John was mentioning, what our cash carryover would be,
okay.
I think that's doubtful in my mind.
That would be the hose would be the permanent improvement. The hose will be in the permanent improvement fund.
No, I get the hose part. The hose you're showing doesn't expense.
There's
You're
nothing else.
showing no other expense.
Right.
In equipment. I don't think you're really telling us that, but maybe you are. You know what I'm saying?
Do we need to
I think
get
to
it out of there?
expect that we're
Yes.
going to have 3 years with only 35,000 in capital. Doesn't seem reasonable to me, giving us a false,
Well, we're putting 25,000 in that capital each year.
Per year.
Each year we're putting money in there, it's coming out, that's already in there.
yeah, I see the money going in. I don't see any money coming out.
No.
Well, they don't know, we don't know what, we don't know what it is, but we're gonna have enough money
Right,
to cover that.
but
When it
any
comes.
money coming out will come out of
To
this.
me,
year.
that's not budgeting 5 years on your capital. You're budgeting 3 years on your capital. Unless you think you can get through with
Well,
no equipment
yeah,
expense.
that won't affect this year. We could maybe work on that and get something.
Yeah, it just seems to me
Yeah,
when he
no, that's-
asked.
Yeah, we can look at
If you
that.
remember last year, I said to the police, I'd like to see what the fire's doing.
Oh.
Police went to 5 years.
Oh, yeah, no, that's
You
not a
went
problem.
You
I-
went to 3 years in my mind.
Okay, yeah,
I
no,
would
that's,
like to.
I mean, I have ideas what I'd like to see us doing, and I just,
That's what I'd
I
like
just
to
didn't-
see. I don't know about the other two
Okay.
numbers, but
yeah,
what,
that's,
in the end, it's giving us a false number on our cash carryover, I think.
No,
Maybe it's,
no, it's, because this is a separate fund, the capital fund might not have that amount.
Oh, I see what you mean.
We're transferring. the
Yeah,
fund's
you're
already
right.
accounted for.
You're right. I'm thinking, yeah.
Okay.
That's not going to carry over.
and I don't have a problem on working on a 20, 21, 22, 23.
Well, I just think it's good practice to look out
Sure.
5 years, myself. And I think you gave us 5 years last year.
Yeah, would have been, wouldn't you? Yeah, that would have been.
It would be the same with your permanent improvements. these buildings, we got 4 years there with no expenses. We got pretty new buildings and we're
Right.
putting money in them. I get it to save the electrical costs, but to think that we're gonna have 3 or 4 years with no expense. I'd like to see a 5-year projection.
And I would be happy to work on that.
It may not have to be itemized. You could, take half of your income. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, sure. Let's hope we don't have to have
Well, yeah,
it
that's
for a
fine.
couple of years. That's,
I just.
if we take care of them and maintain them the way we're supposed to, we shouldn't.
On the ambulance and EMS fund, I look at, we've got salaries and retirement and everything in there, but we didn't record anything to date for this year. Is that because
Because we're still receiving monies in from
this
all
is
the
on the
way,
expenditures?
right. Because we haven't put it all towards they're still doing the adjustment and the breakdowns. Jennifer's working on it. We're trying to make sure that it goes per incident, because right now, if it's sitting at number one's not going, then we're not charging the salary of those 2 guys towards the ambulance.
We plan on recording that before the year's up, but we just haven't
Yeah.
made the adjustment yet.
Okay. Okay. Anybody have any questions, or?
And I did go to our P.O. box today, and we had $2,900 and some worth of collection today, so.
Why do we have a P.O. box?
Well, that's where some of the private pays come into the P.O. box. So,
Don't we have a
we have a,
collection system?
yes, and they
that
take care of
bill it and-
they do the insurances and Medicare and Medicaid.
And again, why isn't it delivered just to Station 4?
I'd have to ask, because I think there was I'm sorry, it was a HIPAA requirement.
Okay.
I forgot that's.
It's not like a lockbox service that we pay for.
No, I know, but I just was curious. I mean, we've got 24
Sure.
hours coverage and all that stuff, and just curious as to why, but that makes sense. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, because it has to be under lock and key, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Next up is the general fund, and in a minute or so, I'll get to some of the questions that were asked last year of the general fund. Once again, we're being very conservative with the real estate taxes. We have inside millage that will go up with rebound, and you'll see additional money there. Another big line item in the general fund is the cable franchise fee, which is the $460,000, and that comes from the state charges the various cables and dish TV and all that a franchise fee to operate out here. They collect it at the state level and feed it to us. It's not a tax that we put on, it's a state department.
This may be an ignorant question, but does the net neutrality and all that stuff that's being discussed now, will that have any impact on those fees?
As I see it now, I haven't heard any impact because the cable and satellite companies and that will still be collecting, the fee is based on the bill that they send the homeowner.
It didn't seem to, when they passed those new regulations, it didn't seem to affect it any, so.
Okay.
when they-
This has been around a long time,
Yeah.
and we don't expect it to go anywhere.
Yeah, the fee is based on what the homeowner, I mean, if you get your bill, actually, if you get cable, at the bottom it says franchise fee.
And I see it.
And it actually has our name and phone number on there, so we do get calls once every couple of weeks, people complain, and it's a state issue, I don't know why they put our name on there, it's nothing that we do up here.
Okay.
One of the big things in the revenue side, and it's the exact same amount for the expense side, is the tax incentive financing, $290,000. That's money that comes into the township and goes right back out, that's for the King Kroger
Yep, it's up over there. Slovenia Avenue.
project, so, yeah, project over there. So that's dollar in, dollar out for that.
And this is the last year for that too, 2018. That'll be up.
So in the future, you'll see, when we get to that sheet, you'll see our budget actually dropping, but it drops on the expense side and it drops on the revenue side. On the expense side, do you want to take a word?
Go ahead.
On the expense side, it's just basically status quo on most of the line items. One of the things that was asked last year and was that the general fund is spending more than it's taking in per year. And we're looking at what we could do. We tried to cut as many corners, but those were just small time. But one of the big items that is not required, but it is a service to the Sylvania Township residents, is we have unlimited pickup and we have brush removal services. Rob's fund can't pay for those, his road and bridge fund. So when we do that, it's a transfer from the general fund to his fund, and that's about $350,000. Not that we want to do it, but if you eliminated that transfer, we would almost be a balanced budget in the general fund. But that's a service we would provide the township residents with. They don't pay any tax for that. So it's a service that the general fund provides to the Sylvania Township residents. And like I said, that's about $350,000. But the good news is that we still are healthy going out to we went on our projections as 2023, and we're in a very healthy shape out to them. And our capital improvements, we have substantial reserve in there, in case we need to use that for any building repair, parking lot repair.
That's a question I have for you, John, is, we've got $3,679,000 in that account. And we built a fire station for that a few years ago. That seems like an awful lot. We're putting 25 grand in a year just for that account. Do you think that's something we ought to be earmarking towards? And I didn't want to say it I should have asked the same question with the police chief, but, a lot of the monies that we're taking out, or maybe all departments should look at this, if we're taking monies out for capital accounts, but then we're buying equipment and everything else that I always assumed came out of the capital account, we're taking that as a line item. Should we be looking at all the departments with regards to how much we have in the capital accounts, as opposed to, granted, I know something drastic could happen, but $3.7 million is a lot. Hold on a second. Especially if we can't use it. If we can't use it for operating, it might help us delay a levy it later in the future. We may need to help fund it. If we, for example, if we eliminated the 25, it's up for conversation. I'm not saying we have to do this, but just over 4 years, 5 years, we have another $125,000 the fire department might need, or the police department might need, or the roads might need. So I just say for you guys is a challenge. Maybe look at your trends back the last 10 years or so on what the capital improvements have actually been, and do we have more than ample money in those accounts? And if we could, because we can't touch that money, only for capital. Because the state won't allow us to transfer out, correct? So just, all I'm saying is look in general for all the departments, if we think there's an excess amount in those accounts, and maybe we could start peeling those off and start catching up that way on our general fund budget. Just a thought.
To answer your question, the fire definitely needs it.
Yeah, I agree.
The police has
$700,000 in their account.
As you said, for discussion, it would be a way for the general fund to have a $25,000 more cash balance each year if we didn't transfer, because that comes out of the transfer figure at the bottom there, that 560.
If you need the money, you need the money. I'm just saying we can't touch it. We can't touch this at a later date when it's in a capital account.
I can't sit here right now and say we need them. I mean, we have
$3,700,000.
Yeah, in there. So I can't sit here and say we need the 25,000.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you during your conversation, but I wanted to.
You said it's for discussion.
Yeah.
Well, I think
if the board wants to.
Actually, I think that's a good comment.
Yeah, we can certainly
Because-
eliminate that transfer.
Yeah,
As a
and
savings.
we're already, I don't like it, but we're spending more than we're taking in the general fund. And we're setting aside capital that frankly, you're not showing us any need for that. That's a healthy, especially in the general fund, we've got a healthy set aside.
Do I hear, should we
We don't have to
Well, I
decide
don't
on it
know.
today, just give it some
No,
thought.
because we're gonna pass the budget next week, so, or next
Oh,
December,
next
so
week.
if you wanna change it, I mean, now's the time to tell us, and we can take that 25 out, and that will increase the,
I don't see any need to have that in. Unless you do, John.
They have $3.7 million.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's foolish.
We can't touch it either.
Yeah.
No,
not do the,
capital.
so we'll not do the $25,000 transfer, which is optional, and that's.
Right.
And here's the,
And it'll increase our cash balance to 25.
and here's the other thing that we could consider, when I was thinking about this. If we have this excess money in the account, 3.7, and let's say Mike needs something over here in his department because we're short, I'm just thinking out for levies and down the road. We could conceivably
And pay for it.
we could buy a piece of equipment out of that account to prevent putting money in their account, right, to offset
We could,
a future purchase.
Previous elected officials did a lot of horse trading within the funds, and I think it's,
Okay,
you know, granted, if we need something in desperate need, we can always explore things, but I
Okay.
think we ended up paying off their loan to the general fund
Yeah.
and things, and it was just not an ideal situation. But it is nice to have money rather than needing it, so we'll keep that in mind, but I would prefer that we not
okay.
go too far
That's
down
fair.
that trail.
so what we'll do is we'll modify the budget, take the 25 out, and increase the general fund reserves 25 each year for the next 4 years.
Yeah, don't put it in expense.
Right, we're taking it out, so it'll increase the cash balance.
I know it's difficult to project, but I know we've got that mutual agreement with the city of Sylvania. Do we expect any revenue to be coming in from that, or?
We have not planned on any revenue yet, so any revenue coming in would be I'll use the word bonus.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in the budget for additional revenue, but that could be coming down the road.
Okay.
Once again, we try to be as conservative on this as we can.
I think that would be longer range, certainly, than 20.
Like I said, we didn't put any in, so.
Oh, I just wanted to mention too that in the general fund, that's inside millage. We have a half mil inside millage, so that's dollar for dollar. If the assessments go up
10%.
10%, taxes go up 10%, there's no reduction factor applied to that. So that's, we're kind of hopeful of getting a little extra on that fund too then.
And sort of this is tied to the road department, we're coming up to that, but I guess one thing we could do is one brush pickup, but I feel like probably two, and every once in a while we have a storm damage where I think we actually wind up doing an extra one. So the city only does one brush pickup, we have two, right?
Correct.
But I think we should, personally, I think we should keep that service. But if we're looking for ways to help.
You could balance this, what I think the bottom line is, what you're saying, John, is you could balance this general fund out pretty quick. Just 25,000 here, cut back on.
I can get close.
Yeah.
But I think after the readout.
But not the 300,000.
After the readout, I'd like to sit down and say, we're real close. We're good for another 15 years or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, with the 300 in there, you're maybe looking for 100,000 if you take out the 300.
But I think the reval will help us.
Yeah, that might be. We could get close. But I'd hate to say we're not going to have a general pickup or cut back on our brush. 'Cause then
I think the general pickup's
Depends on
the thing
cycle.
that's least utilized these days. I think people really rely, just driving through my neighborhood, on the stick
Yeah.
pickup. But the general pickup, I notice less and less out every year. And I mean, I keep thinking, throw a box here in the parking lot and for a week and tell people to bring it up here or something, but.
You know, when you want to get rid of your mattress, you don't want to wait till the end of the year to get rid of your mattress.
No, yeah,
You're going to call your garbage provider
Yes,
and
yes.
pick up your mattress.
Yes, and thank goodness
Yeah.
we don't have a township-provided garbage pickup.
All right, any other questions? If not, I'll bring Rob up. Rob?
I got a couple items that you may not have. up there. I know Scott provided you some documents that I put together, but to help decipher some of these big chunks, I know I have a lot of pieces and parts and moving parts, different funds, more than the other two units. I broke it down a little bit for you, and I'm also providing you, like I did last year, the road department's pavement condition report, and there's also a 5-year cost analysis in there. And it's really just a, it's not a budgetary issue other than it could show you what the potentials of the cost of resurfacing all the roads that are in the resurfacing projects.
Well, Rob, it's a good thing you went last, because you put the other department heads to shame with all of this preparation and work, and at least they don't have to feel guilty at this point in time, but you've done a nice job here.
I think with what I have, as far as all the different components that make up this budget, it's a little easier. We have a one-sheet page that you should have, the 5-year budget draft. I got to look similar to this here. This was done as a simplistic one-sheet look, and then these other items that I provided, one of them is the Ohio Public Works Commission 5-year capital improvements project that must be submitted every year to them, and this is a requirement by them in order for us to get the funding or the loan or the grants that we receive on those projects. So that is also a 5-year, but one of the nice things about that document is it shows a 2-year effort. In the one column, you'll see a 2-year effort, and those are actual numbers for these projects. Now, this does not encompass our whole budget, but as we go through it, you can reference back to this sheet, and it's for the two different things. It's for road projects, and it's for storm sewer projects. Those two projects are funded through, or we request funding through Ohio Public Works Commission, and those are given to us either in a grant or a loan. So just a little background on those two items. I don't know, did everybody get one of these? Because I got an extra.
I don't have one. Sorry. Maybe I
passed them out when you stepped out.
Oh.
You might have.
Well, you got someone. You got this one.
Oh, you actually use your report, yeah.
And then I think I'll just let Scott take the lead and
All right.
I'll answer questions.
Start with the budget worksheet on top again. And same theory applies to the revenue again. We use the auditor's estimates. And the road and bridge has 2.3 mils of inside millage. So, we're expecting a bump next year on the rollback and homestead, or on the property taxes and the rollback. Going through the line item budget, we pretty much just maintain the current level of service. We did cut back a little on the non-OPWC projects, but I think he has plans for that money in the future years. And there's really nothing out of the ordinary in the operating budget, I think.
Is the reason the balance is so high because we haven't got all our expenses done for the year?
For this year, we still are waiting on leaf pickup. Those will come out of the budget. I know that it's a transfer in, but that still shows in my budget. So that cost will come out. Some of the road resurfacing projects will come out. And there's actually three road resurfacing projects. We have the Trotter Road, the OPWC money, and then the non-resurfacing, or the non-OPWC resurfacing project. So I still owe all those contractors payments, and I've asked them to submit that. The OPWC is out of my hands. It goes through the county, and they do the budget crunch on that, and then they send us the authorization for payment. So that's out of my hands. But I asked the other two contractors to go ahead and start submitting as soon as possible. Those POs we generally keep open until next year and make sure that we catch any stragglers before we close them out.
I did a question on your micro-surfacing plan. You know, we had Merriweather and that other street. Those roads are actually pretty nice now. I mean, at first they were kind of rough, but since they've grinded down. Have you thought about, I know you don't have this in your plan, but have you thought about using that for more roads? The microsurfacing?
The micro-surfacing.
Well,
we've considered it, and I know that the city has done quite a...
Yeah, the city's doing a lot more than we are. Yeah.
They use that program for a life, as a treatment, as an expenditure to livelihood. So the roads that they're doing the microsurfacing on, I don't consider them to need resurfaced, or any type of treatment. Some of the roads that they were doing it on, I quite honestly, I don't understand their rationale on it. I've talked with the county about their process, and how they explain it to me is that they're doing it as a preventative treatment. So basically, that surface layer will wear down, and then they'll still have a pretty decent road underneath there. And when you microseal over a good road, it makes the product you put on even that much better. So it extends the microseal a little bit longer. But eventually that microseal will, like for example, McCord Road, they double sealed that. And it's expensive to do that. It's costly on top of all the other expenditures that you have. And once you've put that on there, other treatments for that road won't work other than milling it and going down it. And just doing a cost analysis with the county for our roads, they seem to last longer, especially the roads that aren't out west, but the subdivision roads, and it just didn't seem cost effective. The other issue is on curb streets. We don't have a lot of what they call upright curbs like we have back in Farmington area. They have upright curbs back there. A lot of our roads are newer roads. They have the S roll curb, and that product seems to roll over, and then it'll start flaking and chipping when it rolls over that concrete and that curb. The upright ones do tend to use a little bit better. I did put it on Silica Road, which is a non-curb road, and a little bit more of a commercial traffic on that road. That'll probably extend the life of the resurfacing 7 years. And the reason we put it on there is it's when we have to resurface that road, it's going to be a 1.2 mile road, and it'll be an extensive project and costly. So we want to extend that life out as long as possible. Some of the other roads that I think would qualify, we've done already in the past. For example, Gill House. I don't know if you're familiar with Gill House off of Flanders. That is an arterial road that runs through all them subdivisions. That was done about 7 years ago, and now we extended the life of it, but that road is in desperate need of a resurfacing project. So you're prolonging the inevitable. I think where we're at in our budget with the security of the budget and the income that has, the revenue that comes in, I think you're just throwing money for an eventual resurfacing. So, for example, Silica Road was $68,000 to do that road. That will get us an additional probably 5 years before we need to look at that road again and be resurfaced. But we could have probably just did additional treatments on the road and extended it another 2 or 3 years past its life.
The Stroyer or Strasser, I haven't seen these guys in town. They've come to town a few times. They last did a project on McCord. What's their secret sauce? What do they have that's so special?
That's the microseal.
That's the microseal.
Yeah, they have several products. They have the microseal. They have what they call a black. It's like a black sealant. It's basically a high-grade parking lot sealer, but it's designed for roads, and it's called Black Onyx. So they have several products. They've really pushed their products extensively, and I know that's who the city uses. and they are part of ODOT's preferred contracts, or they do have contracts set up with ODOT, so we wouldn't necessarily have to put a bid together to use them. But as the way the county is set up now in the, I believe it's called the PLA, it's the cost of when contractors want to come into Lucas County, they have to pay the union scale and they have to pay an additional fee of some sort. I don't exactly know off the top of my head what it's called, but that's why they tended to only go off the state bid, that company, Strausser. But Zach Helm is his name. I'm quite familiar. I've met with him several times, and he's looked at some roads for us. He looked at Corey Road for me last year. I had him come in and evaluate it, and he basically they're the type of company, they want to put their product on something very nice, what I wouldn't consider needs a product, to make their product look better in the end run.
So Holt Road, the road of nowhere, would not be a good.
The Holt Road there would just be
That's
a waste of, there'd be no economic value in putting anything on that other than a resurfacing project.
We've got two projects, Holt Road's one of them that could, if the people wanted to do something there, you're looking at a lot of money in Holt Road.
I think at some point, I've put that out there several times on Holt Road. We want to talk about that briefly. That it will need done. They're building homes on it. All the lots have pretty much sold on the it'd be the south side as you're coming off of Mitchell there. There's plopping homes right on 10 Mile Creek there, and they're banging up that road pretty good right now. Those construction, the concrete trucks, all the crews coming in and out of there. I've had some complaints. But eventually all those lots will sell and we will have to eventually do something there. And I think there's money in the budget to do it if we piecemeal it. We do a portion at a time. The first portion we would look at is doing the ones that we already got the right-of-way for when they subdivided or when they split those properties and in that farm there that's on the south side. They gave us the right-of-ways that we needed to put in the proper road and drainage.
Nice.
Further down, closer to Brent, we don't have that luxury. You have that massive drainage ditch on one side, and then we don't have quite the right-of-way we need on the other. So that would require us going in asking for them to donate the land for us to put a proper road in. There's always the option of doing a portion of it, letting the residents on the other end see how quality of life that brings to that portion of the road, and that may also want them to put that in, but in the meantime we could always just give it some sort of treatment, just a resurfacing, an 1.5 inch resurfacing, and potentially widen it a foot. That would help a little bit, but like I said, that one portion off of Brent, you can't even pass on that road. You have to pull off into a driveway, or we have built-in pull-offs in case you're coming down the road. So I know.
The west side of that could be developed.
Yeah, it's the only road in the township that I know that we've ever lost a truck in. In the ditch line, at least.
I think two things, Corey Road, Sylvania to Central, part of that's in Toledo, but that's a big project that.
If you want to go through and look at the roads themselves, they're in there.
Those are two that we just don't have in our budget at all.
I thought you said
I do have Corey Road budgeted, not the whole.
Yeah, but not for, well, I don't know what I haven't seen this one, so.
It's in the 5-year plan, but if you want to go through it and look at the pavement condition report.
Which one, are you looking at the Public Works one?
Yes, sir.
And where do you have Corey Road here?
second page.
Second page.
2021.
Oh, Central Sylvania.
Yeah, like I said, I think if you do these wider roads, they cost more because you have more material. You do something like Corey Road, you do it a section every couple years. That way you're not expending.
But you've got 300,000 in there if I'm looking at that right. Am I looking at that right?
650,000 is what I have for the 2021 OPWC resurfacing project, which would include Quarry Road from Central to Sylvania. The 650.
Oh, I see, you've got
is our local
950.
share. The total cost is 950,000.
Okay, I got it.
So it's that, if you look at the funding codes on the left, LOC is local and the OPWC is their share.
Yeah, that could be a federal.
That's all an estimate too,
No, I get you. It's probably not far off.
depending on if you get grant or you get,
But you could go with federal aid on that, possibly.
yeah, when it gets a little closer to, we do these 2 years out, every 2 years, so I show you what the 5-year projection looks like, but in reality, we're budgeting 2 years out. We're saying 2 years out that we have this money available and it's allocated, and we as a board decide that this project is worthy, and that's what the OPWC funding is for.
Yeah, I
Is
guess.
to show, and then at some point, it'll come across Dave's desk and he'll sign off that,
But that's a $950,000 project.
correct.
Which is roughly, you're doing $1 million a year.
Right, and that does
So
not
it's
include
1
any
year,
drainage.
one project. That's why I say we differ a little bit on this, but I don't think that one bothers me and Holt Road bothers me.
Okay, just
And
again,
if you took our total mileage and say divided by 25 years, you're gonna be like,
And I've done that in the pavement condition report. If you look at the very first page,
okay?
the Sylvania Township Road Pavement Condition Report, if you do a cost, and like I said, this is a cost analysis, it's generic.
You're doing a 20-year lifespan.
Yep, if you do 6.64 miles per year is what technically we should be resurfacing every year if we considered all of these assumptions. The assumption that we're getting 20 years out of the lifespan of each road, and it costs $300,000 a year to resurface a mile. So, and then there's a 2% increase per year, which it really varies. I use the 2% because some years it depends on the fuel cost. And that fuel cost drives everything in the construction fields now, especially in asphalt, because that's what they use to heat and transport everything.
Are you saying you think you can fund these costs I'm looking at?
I believe so. I sat down with Scott and looked at even the worst-case scenarios. We're doing, I think when he gets into it, he'll show you what we're rolling over in some of these funds, and I think it's because there was probably 6 or 7 years there, we weren't resurfacing as many miles as we probably should have been, and I've been stepping it up increasingly. If you look at that report, it'll show that I'm going from, basically 2.5 miles up to 5 miles a year. So in 2018, we're going to look at resurfacing 4, 19.5, and for, just because of the roads you select, it dropped back down to 4.5, but over the 5-year period, that's all anticipation that the road deteriorates at the same rate it's deteriorating. Anything can change. And as we add new roads, those numbers increase as
Okay, now,
well.
what am I missing? When I look at your 2019, I see 1.6 million. And when I look at 19's budget, I see $1 million.
Okay,
So what are you,
this first page in the analysis, it's not a budget really item, it's just an analysis based on assumptions. and the assumptions are at the top.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, so if I was to resurface in 2019, 5 miles and crack seal 10 miles
Oh,
at 2019 costs,
okay.
that's what we're looking at 1.6.
Okay, I see what you're...
That's with all the
Yeah.
increases added in.
But when you divide by the 20, that's based on resurfacing, and you're putting in 10 miles of crack fill. I get it, I see it.
Correct.
So you're using maintenance, which is good. In fact, the situation we're in with microsurfacing and crack sealing, that's what we're doing. The roads look good, but you're delaying the cost.
Correct.
And what we're doing is matching our budget rather than, this is your need, this is your budget.
Correct. This is
what
just,
you got
this is a
going.
guide that I use to
I
look
get it.
at to determine future costs and what roads I'm going to use the money on. It's not really true numbers as the OPWC money or the OPWC paperwork for 5-year improvements and the 5-year budget draft that we use. These are actual numbers that I can show you from either a quote, previous purchase order, or the OPWC Exhibit A, which you may have a copy of that up there, that shows you actual costs. And these numbers were put together by Lucas County Engineer's Office in the state of Ohio. And then the other one you may have up there is the purchase orders and annual tasks.
So maybe you could talk about the items that are budgeted in the capital fund too also.
Oh, okay. And that would be the sheet here? Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay. And speaking of what you were talking about earlier on the capital improvement fund and the other units, departments, if you look at this sheet, the future expenditures 2018 budget draft sheet I have, the tag number are vehicle numbers on the left there. The dash is 07 or the dash 99 or the dash 03. The way we do it is that indicates the year of the vehicle. So prior, in 2006, Greg received, the former Public Works Manager, received money that was borrowed from the Road and Bridge Fund through legal means, and it was apparently given to the fire department for an issue that they were having with their levy. And he received the money back that year. I don't know exactly what year it was given to him out of the Road and Bridge Fund or transferred to the fire. So he bought a bunch of trucks with it that year. So those 07s that you see, like 407, 607, 2507, those are the number, the vehicle number, and then the last two, the 07 is the year of the vehicle. They were actually purchased in 06, which if you're looking at capital equipment expenditures, you don't want to put all your money up front on every piece of equipment because then it's going to expire that year, or it's probably going to wear out. So looking at that, I kept my transfer into my capital fund the same as had been for the last 5 years, which is $100,000. So every year I transfer in $100,000 into that fund because I'm going to systematically, if you look at 2019, start removing those 07s out of service. And I'm going to try and do it where I spread them purchases out instead of buying all new 07, replacing all the 07s at the same time. So my capital improvement fund, based on the numbers of the 19 through 22, should be in fairly good shape. I should have only about $200,000 at the end of that left into that fund. So it's not a huge number, I don't think, compared to what you were talking about in the general fund. And we do have fairly large buildings that they do require maintenance, and we will be putting in a resurfacing our parking lot this year. Not the administration area, but parts of the administration area on the north side here, where our guys use that service area, and it's a parking lot for us, and then around the back of the building. I don't know if that's the last time it was done, I think it was in 2000, but with the amount of traffic for the fuel point and for our heavy trucks that run through there, it's pretty beat up. There's not probably a square foot of pavement that doesn't have a deep crack in it out there. So if you look in the infrastructure repairs on the bottom part, you'll see that resurface administration parking lot. It says administration, but it's really the road department's parking lot. I don't know why I put that in there, but.
And then
So next year, I'm looking at replacing a Dinkmeyer leaf loader, or purchasing one. These are the machines that pick up the leaves. They're super high maintenance. We spend about $10,000 a year just on parts for these machines. This year I spent $12,500 on the parts, and that's just to keep them running and replace the parts that are wore out in them. So we haven't purchased one since 2010, and these things are fairly high maintenance. And the 2002, I believe it is, one that we're going to replace, that I would like to replace in this budget for next year. And then a new Gledhill poly plow, which one of our 11-foot snow plows has been welded and bent up so much. We use it as a spare, only if worst case scenario, because I don't want it breaking on them in the middle of the night and having to drag it back to the shop. So those two items are the only two that I'm looking at for next year, at a $45,500 for both items. Those, you should have a cost estimate from the manufacturer for that leaf loader. If you don't, I can provide one.
I didn't include that.
Okay. I already have an estimate for that. There's only several companies that make them, and we've been utilizing the same company for the last 15 to 18 years, manufacture them, and they are designed for specifically for our trucks.
Are you sleeping at night knowing that you can keep up with the roads and the budget and the plan? Are you getting nervous about us not having enough funding for the roads?
No, I think we're...
Feeling okay about it?
I think we're in good shape.
When I drive around, sorry to interrupt, I drive around, I'm like, oh man, the thought of having to redo this road, or gosh, I just drive into a subdivision like, oh my gosh, we have to replace this road, and it's like I just see it all coming at one time, and like, kind of freaks me out.
There is a systematic way to keep that from happening, and that's what I'm trying to do. And that's we had a big boom from '98 to 2006 in our road construction, and in that period, you figure 20 years from that period, you're going to have a lot of roads coming due, and a lot of them are out west, and it's not the best base out there. So we've been keeping up on those roads out there a little bit, getting to them a little faster, so extending them. Some of the roads and subdivisions in this area where we have the sand, they'll go 25, 26 years before they really start showing where that we need to go in and resurface somewhere. Out west, it could be 16 years. We already have subdivisions that weren't here when I started that are in need of roads, and we're resurfacing them already. So, just because a subdivision or a road is 25 years old doesn't necessarily mean it's due. And just because it's 10 years or 15 years old doesn't mean it doesn't need anything. So that's the key to this, is I drive every road every year, and I get out and I look at every road and I put a grade on it, 1 through 5, and that's what this report's for. I think that the expectation and the level of service that the citizens of the township expect is being met. There's some exceptions, which Holt Road may be one, and I received 1 complaint over the last 5 years from a citizen on that road, but it is probably the worst road in the township as far as grade and what type of treatment can be used to try and upgrade it. But I think we're in pretty good shape. If you look at my report, I think there's only about 5 miles of roadway in the township that I would consider in poor condition and should be resurfaced within the next 5 years. And I've addressed that in the OPWC and the non-resurfacing projects. So I think I'm very comfortable with the surface of the road. There's other structures that I'm going to start focusing on, storm sewers, drainage, over the last 5 years, really over the last 10 years, since all the new subdivisions being built out west. The effects of the 10 Mile Creek drainage issues have compounded everything to the east of it. So as that fills up faster, those don't drain off as fast. So some of the subdivisions, the older neighborhoods, are now having in the smaller subsidiary creeks that drain into the state ditch, that drain into 10 Mile Creek eventually, aren't draining as well as they used to. So we're looking at those projects too, and we're seeking funding through the Stormwater Utility District on the majority of them. Very few projects we do, even internally, we do internal projects, $2,500 to $12,000 projects. I submit that in a force account expenditure to the county, and they reimburse us for it. They review it. Brian over at the county reviews it, and then submits it to the Stormwater Utility District, and they do reimburse us for it. Scott?
I'm glad you were repaving more roads and that, because we had fallen off on that. And I think it's better to, trying to keep up to get to that 5 miles is a good thing.
Yep, for sure. How many miles of road do we have? 100 and...
We have approximately 132 miles of township roads, but the road department services about 172 miles to residents. So that brush pickup, leaf pickup, other services, that we provide, curbside services, household pickup, those extend our reach out onto the county and state roads as well. So, but as far as resurfacing and infrastructure between the right-of-way, it's 132 and growing.
Now, when we do an OPWC project, that doesn't flow through our books, correct, the match? If you're joint with the county? Look at the project estimate you got.
Yes, we don't have to show liability for the county's portion, but it does flow through us because John generally is the administrator of the OPWC project.
I'm specifically asking about the grant. Look at your 155,609. Does that flow through our books, that grant? Does that show on our income?
To have a credit, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm asking.
It should be a
I
debit
never
credit.
can find it, but maybe.
Do we write the check or does the county?
The grant money is wrote directly to the contractor from OPWC.
Okay, so it does not
So
flow.
it's
It
not a
does
debit
not
credit.
flow through our books.
Oh,
So we're getting, in this particular one,
But just a caveat to that, when we approve these projects, we have to, when we submit them, we approve that we have the funding for the whole
oh,
project.
no, I get that.
Okay.
I get that.
That's why the numbers between what I tell you, I'm asking you for a large amount of money, and then what we actually spend are two different things. So it's...
Let me try it a different way.
Okay.
If we show $1 million expenditure and we've got an OPWC project in there. We're spending in this case, 1.3 million, but the 300,000's not showing in our books, I think.
No, that's the county's portion, and it shows on their.
Yeah, the
on their
payment's
books.
going to the contractor, but we've got to pay back the loan portion over the next.
Over 10 years.
Got
Yeah,
it.
we can do it two different ways.
That's what I thought.
We can do it that way, a loan grant. We can go single. The reason I do a joint with the county is because if you add, all these projects are scored by the state. So when we submit our application, there's a board who scores the project
Oh, I get
for the need. And I like to pair them up with the county projects because they give our traffic count boost. For example, if I'm doing a subdivision road and it only affects 200 people in the subdivision, the score is going to be low. But if I add McCord Road that happens to be driving by that subdivision as part of that project, I just increase that by a 50,000 traffic count a day. So that score's higher and the project goes. The county pays for their portion, we pay for our portion. But it does, even the county's portion, we have to approve through OPWC. So when we do a joint project, you guys will sign off on the county's portion to make the payment as well. I don't know if I haven't lost anybody there.
Have you considered, and again, I'm sorry for asking you all these questions, I could probably pick up the phone and call you, so I apologize, but have you thought, like, we're leasing that EMS unit for the fire department, have you thought about leasing any of the trucks as opposed to writing a check?
I've looked into leasing. There's things that come with that. There's other items, maintenance issues and stuff that come with leasing.
Okay, if you looked at it, fine.
I've looked at it.
Curious.
Very few municipalities do it. Some will do it on some of their bigger items. For example, there was an option for our recently purchased street sweeper. But if you plan on keeping it for more than 5 years, which I planned on, we kept our other one for 11, then it doesn't become cost effective. You wind up buying the product out. But if you are dead set and intent on your pass-through is 5 years, then it might make sense to lease it. Or
I just was thinking for your back room with Al and those guys, if they're working on a bunch of 07s, get some leases, and like a car, you just turn it in when you're done. But
Yeah.
I don't know enough about it, but if you've looked at it, that's fine with me. I'm just curious.
The majority of our maintenance issues for on the road department side is not because we put a lot of miles on our roads, on our vehicles. It's because the idle time and because of the salt and the type of work it's doing. The frames tend to wear out before the engine does. So, because of the corrosion.
Those leaf collectors probably aren't state purchase, are they?
Yeah, they're on state bid.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, there's several, I think, companies that might be on there, but some of them, I haven't looked for this year, but generally he's on, Dinkmeyer is on the state bid. It's Partners Manufacturing. So,
I still, my gut tells me we're short, but I'll look at your numbers.
well, even if you look at...
Including OPWC, though, I have to plug that in.
if
There's
you look,
much money being spent on our roads that doesn't go through our funds. But you might be all right, at least you
Wanna go
feel
over that?
confident.
Show 'em?
Put it this way, the next 5 years, you're pretty confident with what you have here.
I'm absolutely, based on what Scott's showing me, the numbers and the estimated revenue and projected projects, we're going to have $2 million rollover. And it's been consistent over the last 5 years that
I got you.
I've got, 4 different funds, but the 2 major funds have had $1 million to $1.4 million rollover in them. I'm slowly going to bring that down and increase the resurfacing and the drainage projects.
But if we had a little bit of income, we could solve our general fund problem also.
Well, the road and bridge fund does have
You'd be
income.
transferring the money, but if we had 300,000 more for capital improvements on our roads, we could do less crack sealing and more of a permanent.
Well, the 300,000 I'm getting from the general fund,
I understand that.
if I don't get that, I can't legally do the brush pickup or the leaf pickup.
I understand that.
Okay.
I got
Not
it.
doing it.
I just think I sense we're looking like we're okay, and I'm not sure I'm sold on that yet.
Well-
And I think it would solve our general fund problem. But we're only looking at 5 years here. I'm just saying, I think we're delaying things that will bite us 10 years out or 15 years out. But that's all right. I'm
I
satisfied
don't know
with your
how
budget.
the general fund ties into it, but,
Rob, you've given us a lot of good information here. I think it'll take us a little while.
if you
I
have.
think in
any
the future, maybe get this information to us a couple days in advance so we can kind of look at it and figure out what things we're interested in or something that might stand out. It'd help us all a little bit on the day we do it. I think we did a great job getting this all in 2 hours, so nice job to everybody. And I really think what you provided here, Rob, was great. Thank you.
I will ensure I get those to you ahead of time next time.
These will be on next week's
Yep,
agenda.
We'll have an appropriation resolution. It won't look like this. We just, list the line items and then summary.
And these will be on our website as of today or tomorrow?
Probably wait till we pass it, probably after the next meeting.
Okay.
We'll make that adjustment for the transfer.
Oh, yeah, good point. Anybody else have any comments or?
Well, I think it's a good job by all the departments.
Definitely.
I know in the fire department, they have about 10 goals listed at Station 4 of what they want to do this. And this is probably a little bit late, but I think with the budget, it'd be good to see something real short, John, on what the department heads think about personnel, equipment, capital improvements, not a big thick report, but kind of some bullet points and what their goals are for next year, so we can check at the end of the year. I don't want to say, give you a number of goals, because you guys ought to be able to figure that out. I don't know how the other two feel, but I think it'd be good to see what you think about personnel, equipment, capital, something short, though. Don't make it big, and what your goals are for next year. That would be something I'd like to see from each department. I know fire has that, if you need some help. I know they list out what they want to accomplish every year. I think that would be a good thing to see. I don't know if you guys agree, but
I think it's
something short.
Rob, you've got in here the salary and things jumping by 100,000. I'm assuming you're looking at adding personnel?
Which item are you looking at, John?
General operation expenditures, salaries, road and bridge, we went from 263 budgeted to 272 accrued through this time and 383 for next year. I guess that is a good point,
Well-
Mr. Crandall. It would be nice to know staffing if there's planning on changes.
That one doesn't include any new people. The original budget for 17 didn't include the raises for 17 or 18, so really you got kind of like 2 years built in there.
Okay.
I don't think, didn't we lose somebody there?
We did, I lost an employee, and I will be, we're finishing up the interviews right now, and be anticipating it being in December's meeting to request.
I'm just
offer
looking for
additional
like,
employment.
if you think you're going to need somebody, kind of a heads-up thing. I know we have a replacement in the road department, I remember that, but I'm thinking just one sheet from each department And if personnel is okay for the next year or two, that's fine.
Yeah.
If we're adding somebody, even if we know about it, it's kind of a nice reminder to us. Like, I think we have a fire plugged in 18, if I remember right, but maybe I don't. But I'm just saying, if we could get those bullet points, I think it would sure help me as a trustee. To get a feeling from the departments and how we're looking.
Well, nice job, everyone.
Yes,
Thank you.
very good.
I'd like to offer a motion to adjourn at 4:12.
Second.
Mr. Randall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes.
All righty, we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Yeah, hey, thanks for doing that.